Hello and welcome back to the garden. Today I thought we'd have a quick garden tour, seeing as we're now into June, start of June. It's been very cold up until now, especially at night times, which hasn't helped the garden, to be honest, to get going. Very overcast, wet, windy. It's not been the best start to the year. Would you agree, Ruby? Yeah, I think she probably would. Just as we walk in there, we have tetrapanics, large hostas. Palm tree I moved recently, it's doing well. Looks like it's settling in. The leaves aren't really moving yet in the middle there, but I didn't really expect them to, but hopefully there'll be some movement soon. I've now taken, if you remember a previous video when I moved it, I've now taken the flowers off, because what I'm looking to do is put all the energy into growing new roots rather than concentrating on flowers. What else can we look at? We'll take a walk along the more spiky stuff, which all tends to sit in here because it's in full sun all day. Various bits and pieces, yuccas, agaves, various cacti, more palms. Up here, at one time I didn't have a lot of spiky stuff, so I slowly seem to be acquiring more and more, which isn't a bad thing. We take a look at the border over here. Noosa Patio, it's planted earlier this year. It sits in full sun most of the day here, but unfortunately there's been a lack of full sun this year. He's now managed to put out 2 leaves. One's looking rather dishevelled, half decent one, and there is another one coming, but considering I believe it's now June the 7th as I record this, very slow start to the year really. What else have we got in here? There's some gingers now popping up. Well, I say popping up, I actually planted them in this year, so they've more than popped up. They're probably bigger than they should be because they've had a bit of heat in the greenhouse. Down here, that's colocasia pink china. They're putting in an appearance. That was there last year, that's now coming back. I moved the bigger plant, that's one of the offsets that are left in the ground now coming through, so hopefully that will establish this year. What else have I got to show you? The cannas are doing well. Both the ones you see here I acquired earlier in the year. I bought them as small plants from Jim's Palms UK from memory. Check out his channel, well worth it. I happened to be in his area, looked on Facebook and he had some for sale, and went along and bought them. Very nice plants. I believe one of those is Russian red and the other is Musifolia at the back, the green one. Both of them should get up to 6-8 foot hopefully later in the season, if we ever get some sunshine, which has now come out. Also we've got here the Patio I planted earlier in the year is settling in. Had a little flush of leaves. Got a couple more cannas here that I brought with me from my old garden. Palm settling in, yellower leaves from when it was moved and it was in shade in the old garden. Nice green leaves, more stocky leaves coming through from the middle, so that's doing well. Another canna down here. Let me stand back so you can see this. Tetrapanics papaya Rex, I believe. This is the correct Rex, the original introduction from Maloo nurseries many years ago. I brought this as an offset from the big plants in my old garden. This is a big plant. If I put my hand in for scale, you'll see these are mighty leaves. They're quite hard to appreciate the scale of them. Nowhere near as mighty as they will be, but this year I'm quite pleased with it. It's starting to put on some better sized leaves, and if we have a look in a moment, well, a while, as we get round the other side, I've got one in a pot that was about the same size as this one when planted, and you'll see there's quite a difference in leaf size between the potted example and one in the ground. If you want big leaves, pop them in the ground, you'll get far, far bigger leaves. What else have we along here? Various ferns, all mixed in. I love ferns in the spring when they unfurl their fronds. Lovely, lovely fresh green colours. Really do take some beating. Everywhere in the garden, as you look around, you'll notice there's foxgloves, all totally self-seeded. If you're going to have a weed, some might call it an invasive weed in the garden, foxgloves are the one to have. Come in various shades, and I think they really add to the garden. I'm not going to pull them out, I'm going to let them do the thing, seed themselves about, and hopefully next year I'll have many more. So anyway, where were we? What have we got here? Here we have Shaphelia rhododendrofolia, I believe. I planted it in here, and there it sat, and sat, and sat, and didn't do anything. And I began to wonder if it was in suspended animation, or whether it was actually ever going to do anything, but carefully pull that out of the way. If you look, I don't know whether can we see in the middle there. If you look in the middle, let me just try and get us in there. Look in the middle. No, I still can't see. If you look in the middle, there we go. It's just starting to flush now. If you look right in the middle of the plant, you'll see the new leaves coming out. So that must have settled in a bit late. I thought they usually, from memory, flush before that, but not sure it's because whether it's now in the ground rather than a pot, or whether because just the season has been remarkably slow this year. But anyway, it's now putting out a flush, which I'm pleased about. Patio Edward Needham form. Lovely, lovely leaves. Has put out a huge flush this year. I think the wet weather has been good for something, and I think this year it's been good for Fatsias. This really, really put out well. I also have the green fingers form of Fatsia just a bit further round in the border. I'll be honest, I can see hardly any difference between the two. They're meant to be different, but unless many years ago, the one you're looking at now, Edward Needham form, was sold to me wrongly, which I don't believe it was, because they weren't even producing green fingers then I wouldn't be too concerned about getting both, because from what I can tell, they both look very, very similar. Anyway, let's continue along. The tree ferns are doing their thing. Lovely light apple green coloured flush of leaves coming through. Last year's leaves still being held on to. This winter was wet, not particularly cold, just wet. So most of last year's fronds are touched slightly by the frost. If you can see in the middle, there's a little brown, but they've still hung on to them. So this one's doing very well. I moved this one not too long ago. I've still got a prop in it holding it up, because the plan is for it to hang out over the raised bed, which, if the roots are growing as fast as the fronds, and should be getting rooted now, and hopefully later in the year I'll be able to remove the prop. What else have we got in this little area? Persicaria down the bottom here. I can't remember the name of this off the top of my head, but it's doing really well this year. It was a few leaves when it went in and it's filled out to this already. Begonia luxans, begonia at the back. As you can see, the leaves, it's in quite deep shade there, which it seems to like. It holds its leaves better in shade. Lovely, lovely red stems going up. Seems quite heavy. And down the bottom we have another Patio, which is spider's web. At the back we have more ferns. More ferns at the front that are now settling in. And an old tree fern log that I brought with me from my last garden, which I had laid on the ground in a similar manner. But a strange thing has happened. I was doing something around it the other day. Went to wobble it, and it solidly rooted itself to the floor, which tells me there must be some life for it to have actually rooted itself to the ground. This trunk hasn't done anything ever. I bought it from Seagrove's nursery, I believe, at least 3, maybe 4 years ago. I then got an email telling me there was something wrong with it and they'd send me a replacement, as the whole batch weren't going to grow. I did keep it and try to grow it. I kept it wet, nothing, absolutely nothing. If you feel in the crown, it's not mushy, but it's not solid. So quite what's going on here, I'm not sure, but all I do know is if it's rooted itself to the ground, there is some life left in it. So watch this space and see what happens. Next to it, Gunnera settling in. The last bigger leaf it sent out was quite distorted, but not too alarmed by that. There's a new one coming in the middle, hopefully will be up soon. Planted here in quite shade with the sun coming in through the gaps in the canopy, and hopefully it'll go up to find the light and look nice there. More various ferns, bits and pieces. What have we got in this border? Let's have a look here. Another tree fern. Quite a statement in the garden. If I stand back and get the sun in the right position so you can actually see it's a tall tree fern. There again, lovely fresh apple coloured fronds coming out of the top from this year's flush. Doing well. Surrounded by the lovely weeds that are foxgloves. More persicaria. Now, the newest tree fern to the garden that I believe I planted in March, which is still staked to secure it in. Fronds are lovely and green, trunk is okay. I haven't had one frond out of it so far. I think that's a bit confused. It came into the country late in the year in a container. It was kept in a tunnel where it put some fronds out, and I actually think it's still on Tasmanian time rather than British time, to be honest. I've had a feel in the crown. It's nice and firm, and I can feel a crozier or two in there, but they're just not moving. So I'm going to keep feeding it for this year. Keep feeding it, keep watering it. Hopefully it'll settle in. Hopefully, I'd like it to at least put a couple of fronds out just to reassure me that all is well. Although I think it is, because if you look at the fronds are green, the trunk is damp and healthy. So I have no reason to think otherwise. I think it's just adjusting. There we have some arum lilies doing their thing. They were already in the garden when I moved in, and I have no reason to move them because they look wonderful, to be fair. Also, we got more foxgloves, lovely. This is the other Patio I referred to. This one has green fingers rather than the Edward Needham form, and if you look, I can see next to no difference between the leaf on this and Edward Needham, but I'll keep you updated if anything changes. What else have we got along here? Pseudophanics, ferox. It's just starting to put out a new flush of leaves. Strange plant. Affectionately, I call it the twiglet tree because the leaves remind me of twiglets. This one is growing okay. This one that I moved from the previous garden isn't doing so well. I keep looking and hoping that something's going on up the top. But the leaves, although smaller, which they already were because it was entering the adult phase and the leaves change shape. But I can't see new growth as yet, and I am somewhat concerned that I've lost it. But we'll leave it, give it a chance to get its roots down. When I dug it, it had a really small root ball and seemed to be big roots and not a lot of small feeder roots, which I would have thought there would have been more of, but the jury's out. But I'm going to give it every chance to send out a flush and do something, because I'd really like it to survive, because I love the trunk is really tactile, as you can see. But we'll see. Over there we have another one. That one is grassifolius, I think. If I can zoom in a bit more, if you look up the top, let me see if I can get it in this wind. Anyway, if you can't see, take my word for it. It's now sending out a new flush of leaves in the middle, so that's obviously settled in well and is now growing along happily. What else have we got? Food palms, another mousse de Basio in the middle there that's growing on. European fan palm, Gamerops. I had small concerns over it. I keep telling myself everything is okay, and if you look in the middle there, the latest leaves coming up look nice and green. They kept growing repeatedly brown looking, but I think hopefully the new ones look nice and green and hopefully will open up okay, as well as the shock of the move. When I moved it from the old garden to here, it used to grow in quite dense shade. It was really densely planted in the last garden, and it's gone from dense shade to mostly bright sun when the sun comes out, so it had a double shock to deal with really. But hopefully, I wanted to keep that nice tall trunk, and hopefully I'm going to, by the look of it, because there's definitely movement there. What else have I got to show you? We've looked at the new palm, various plants scattered around the patio area. Tetrapanics, if you recall, I said they do better in the ground than in pots. You can keep them in pots, you can feed them and they can do their thing, but if you think this was the same size as the one planted in the ground, and if I put my hand in for scale, you'll see compared to the one we looked at earlier, the leaves are nowhere near as big. If we wander this way along the greenhouse here, I've moved the path slightly just to fit in a few cannas, gingers, banana. Everything doing well. More bananas. Pond area. We've got the waterfall running today. Another Patio, doing quite well. looking maybe slightly distorted on some of the leaves, but definitely settling in well. Even with the bramble that's now growing through the fence, which I'll attend to later. The arum lily again, this one's Hercules, grows a lot bigger than the standard one, and you get the lovely spotted leaves as well as that fantastic flower. More bananas, Musa sycamensis, ferns, various bits and pieces, everything doing well. Palm plants, they had a slow start as well. They're now coming into their own. The pond's a bit green at the minute. People always think you need filters and everything for a clear pond. I don't believe that's necessarily so. What you need is the right balance of plants and light getting into the water. There's a lily in here. It's slowly growing. Once I get some more lily cover, you can pick it up on the camera. There's water soldiers, there's oxygenating weed, various plants, and what all the plants are doing is pulling some of the excess nutrients out of the water that the algae also feeds on. When you get to the point, the nice balance point, the water should go a lot clearer. I don't believe anyone can build a pond straight away and get it clear. It's a thing you have to work on, the balance of plants. Not quite so easy if you've got fish, but I built this for wildlife, so hopefully I can just get the plant water balance right, and hopefully I'll have a clear pond before long. So I think that's about it for the look at the garden. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe and like, helps the channel grow. And I'll catch you next time when we're back at Heathcroft Garden. But for now, see you later.